If you want to send audio from your F4 to your camera and you have something like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, like what we have here, this is a Nikon Z6, you can do that using the sub out on the side of the Zoom F4. So all you'll need is a TRRS, which is often called a stereo mini jack cable on both sides. So you connect it to the camera's microphone input, and you connect it to the sub out on the side of the Zoom F4. That's the right side of the Zoom F4. All right, now there are a couple of settings you need to set up to make this work. The first one is you want to come into the menu and choose the output menu. In the output menu, we are looking for, first of all, routing. We'll want to double check that the sub out routing is sending the stereo mix. So it should look like this, with the left channel post fader to S1 and the right channel post fader to S2. That'll work for us. Next up, what we want to do is look at the level. And the thing that's important here is on the sub out, we need to make sure that we are using the mic setting, because again, on this camera, we have a microphone level input. This is made to connect a microphone directly, but since we're not connecting a microphone directly, fortunately, the Zoom F4 allows us to choose a microphone level signal to send out of its sub out. So once you've set that, we're good there. Okay. And then we can come out of there. All right, the next thing we're going to do is, now that we have the physical connection set up and we have set up the output to send the right signal, a microphone level signal, now what we need to do is adjust the microphone input level on the camera so that we're getting the same level of audio on the Zoom F4 and in the camera. The reason that's important is that I don't want the audio here, say, to be peaking at about minus 12 dB and clipping here because we had the input level set too high here. Hopefully that makes sense. This is a common problem. Now, before we send the tone, the slate tone, from the F4 to the camera to make sure we have the levels at the same, what we need to do is we need to adjust the slate tone settings here. So we're going to come back into the menu, and I'm going to scroll down to the slate tone. And in slate tone, first of all, I want to make sure that's set at minus 20 dB full scale. And I want to make sure the frequency is at 1000 hertz. I want to make sure the routing is set like this, so everything should get the slate tone post fader, including sub 1 and sub 2. So just make sure everything's selected. And then we'll also want to make sure that the slate tone is on. Now, a couple of things in explanation of what all these settings mean. First of all, we're sending a minus 20 dB tone from the F4's output into the camera's input. The reason we do that is that by sending a tone that's 20 dB full scale here, we know it's 20 dB full scale here, then we will adjust our microphone input until that same tone shows at minus 20 dB on the camera's meters. Once we've done that, we know we're in the same range, and that when I don't clip here, I also will not clip here. And likewise, it will make it so that the same levels we're getting here, if we're peaking at minus 18, for example, here, will also be peaking at minus 18 here. And that's just really important, again, so that you don't clip on the camera when you're not clipping here, or you don't get too quiet of a signal here when you've got a plenty strong signal here. So once we have those set up, we can come back out. I'm going to come to this final meter view over here, all the way to the right, where I can see what the output level is from the outputs here. So I'm going to be looking at sub output, and then I'm going to press and hold the slate button right here. Now when I press and hold that, it should stay on. Now I'm going to come over to my camera, wake that thing up. Okay, now what I need to do is figure out where minus 20 dB falls on the camera meters. That's not always easy. Cameras typically have very poor resolution meters, and this is no exception here. I had to look this up and on my camera, in my camera's manual, to figure it out. So let's say here is the default setting right here at 10, input level of 10, whatever that means. And I can see here that it's definitely not at minus 20 at that point, but I'm not really sure. So I looked it up in my manual, and what I found out is that if I go to 7 like that, That is minus 20 dB on this camera's meter. Not that you would know that anyway, aside from looking it up in the manual, but that is minus 20. So now that we have those both set the same, we're good to go. Now, I can go ahead and turn the slate tone off. And now you can see as I talk into the microphone here, these meters are tracking at about the same level. So we're good to go. Now, what's cool about this is I can now go ahead and start recording. So I'll start a recording on the camera, and I'll start a recording on the F4 at the same time. Now, any audio that's coming into the F4 is getting sent to the camera here. That's great. In addition, to simplify the process of syncing things up, what I can do is just press this slate tone for just a couple seconds, and then turn it back off. Now I have a sync point that's recorded both to the audio on the F4 and to the camera's audio. That makes syncing in post a lot easier. So that's something else you can use the slate tone for. In fact, that's what it was really designed for, among other things. And so there you go on how to set up the F4 to send audio to a camera. Now, there are some special circumstances, and in fact, a very common set of cameras out there, namely the Panasonic GH series cameras, have microphone inputs that have a very hot signal. That is to say that they don't have a lot of range for the levels that you can set the microphone to, and that becomes problematic. And in fact, what I found was that I couldn't turn the GH5 down low enough to get down to minus 20 when the F4 was sending out a minus 20 dB full scale tone. So what do? Well, here's a kind of a hacky solution, but let me show you how this works, is you can actually record a maybe 30-second slate tone recording here. Then while you're playing that back, you can come into the fader for the output for sub 1 and reduce that until the levels on the camera get down to where you need them to be. So let me demonstrate how that's done. First of all, just to kind of simulate a Panasonic GH5 here, I'm going to increase the output level to 10, or the input level to 10. Now you can see here the levels are coming in quite a bit hotter here. Actually, let's go even hotter. I think it's even hotter than that. Let's say more like 12. Okay, check, 1, 2. Yeah, you can see here, these are coming in, maybe peaking at about minus 6, and here they're only peaking at about minus 18 to minus 12 at the most. So this is kind of a situation we'd be up against. So watch this. If I turn on the slate tone, this is minus 20. That's probably minus 3, 6 to 3, somewhere in there. So way too hot here. Let's just say I couldn't turn this down anymore. What do? Okay. Well, what I do is I start a recording here. And let's just record about 30 seconds of slate tone. Okay. Go ahead and stop that. And then we can turn off our slate tone there. There we go. Okay, now another thing I might want to do is come in here into the menu, come into the Rec Play menu. I'm going to scroll down to the play mode, and I'm going to choose Repeat 1. What I want to be able to do is play back that one recording we just did and have it keep repeating and repeating and repeating. That's just like a solid minus 20 dB tone. And that's going to be perfectly what we want here. So now I'm going to go ahead and press play. All right, now you can see we have that tone. Let's see what our camera's doing. Our camera says, whoa, way too hot. So we're coming in at minus 20 here, but probably close to minus 12, maybe even approaching minus 6 here. So I'm going to come to my output, choose fader, go to my sub out 1 and 2, and here, now I can adjust this. Camera's going to sleep there. You can see as I adjust this, it reduces the level here. So I want to adjust the fader until we get to minus 20, which is about right there. So we had to go minus 17 dB on this case. I'll go ahead and come out of the menu. And now we are all set. We now have the levels on the F4 synchronized with the levels on the camera. And so that's how you could do it on something like a Panasonic GH camera. I think some of the Sonys run a little hot as well without the ability to turn down enough. So doing something like this will solve that problem.